Good evening or good morning, whatever the case may be, to our 9th Q&A, following in hot on top of the recent Shadowrun update, which went live about, 50 minutes ago or something? Half an hour, maybe?
An hour.
An hour. Okay. Please remember that if we're talking to you now, we actually talked to you 3 minutes ago, so we talk into the future for us. Which means that when we read one of your questions, it actually takes some time because we already read it and we talked about it, but you didn't realize it yet because the future hasn't happened for you. So there we go. We are off live, and before we start, what we're actually going to do today is we're going to play one session. So all of the early runners that managed to get in on the update, Florian will be there with you shortly, playing the game, and we're going to join a co-op session with one of you, assuming it works out, which hopefully it does. And then we can play a session a bit, and during that time I'll entertain you with answering questions, and hopefully we may also say something relevant, and the stream gets a little more interesting. Other than our two really beautiful heads, you'll actually be able to see the gameplay in some tiny box somewhere there. So that's the idea. Okay, I'm wearing a Dodgers shirt. I didn't have a Red Sox shirt. I'm sorry. I'm in Europe and it's hard to get Red Sox shirts. So it's baseball, but it's not the right team. I'm sorry. Nice. Thank you for the mutton chops. Actually, one of the I met a girl at an airport, and that sounds like a weird beginning for a story. But I met a girl at an airport, and she wrote a story about birds nesting in my mutton chops, and I think that was hilarious. She called me rookie, but that's besides the point. Again, too personal. One of the first things I want to present is this. As you can see, I'm holding a box in my hand, which is almost the original box that we'll pack Shadowrun in. It's not completely original box because we glued it to this side, so it works. But this is actually how it looks like. It's going to look like this. For the people wondering where the special edition, how does it fit into this, we're going to wrap it around in another box. But this is the one that goes into retail, and it's a box. I like boxes. We also have shirts, hoodies, things that we already have had for some team time, but we're now getting more samples in. So as you can see, we're starting out on the physical rewards as well. Now, we're still lining up the whole delivery, package picking, all that stuff. Miniatures are really, really hard to do, not because they are so expensive, which they are, but also because it takes a really long time. However, we're on that as well. We are waiting for our friends at Catalyst to get done with the layout and editing of Boston Lockdown, the campaign book, and that should hopefully be ready for, well, the PDF version should be ready for our launch, and the actual printed book will take a little more time, which is good because the miniatures also take a little more time. But again, we are preparing this. We're just trying to not spend too much time on it before we actually launch, so we're not going to pack packages or do anything like that, but we're talking to providers, getting in contact with people that can help us ship and pack things, especially with US and Europe postage, so we don't pay all the money that the Kickstarter made to postage. And we're also, of course, talking to manufacturers for the various items that we promised to you. So this is on the way. We'll give you concrete updates when we actually have something concrete to say, but the only thing that is pretty concrete is the box. Okay, Florian, do you want to go ahead, and I'm going to dive in and answer a few questions.
Sure.
Okay, let's see. Why is it renamed Shadowrun Chronicles? Oh, that's a good one. Apart from the fact that obviously it's all the forums, the short version is Shadowrun Online sounded very much like a game that is similar to World of Warcraft, which our game isn't. It's not a complete open world MMO. People, however, assumed a lot it is. Partially misled, obviously, by our very enthusiastic Kickstarter, but mostly we found that the online logo sort of puts off a lot of people that think, oh, I can't play the single player at all, and then I have to. play it online with other people. I don't want that. And others said, well, if it's an MMO, some people said, hey, if it's called online, it's a browser MMO, obviously. So there's all kinds of assumptions connected to the word online. So we said Chronicles is a nice word that actually also means something to us, because it means that we are telling a story and that story is going to continue. And we're trying to find a name that's not just Shadowrun something. So this is why we changed the name, and more details can be found in the forums, where we've talked about that a bit. Next question. Question 1 for Elveneko. What about PvP? Are you decided what to do about it? Okay, so we're not decided what to do about PvP. There's currently 2 options we're looking at. One is an asymmetrical PvP, which would basically pit a group of players or a team of 4 people against somebody or several somebodies that take care of the enemy. So one would play the runners and the other faction or the other party would play all the enemies in the level. So that's the asymmetrical PvP that we're looking at. You can also very nicely see our new trees, the skill and body and mind tree here. I'm multitasking, as you can see, so I'm slightly confused with looking at different monitors. So that's the one PvP that we're looking at. The other PvP is a sort of more straightforward deathmatch, but in more of an urban brawl kind of setting. So we make sure that all the runners in a team or all the people in a team match the enemies. So we won't have any trouble with having to find a specific enemy at your level in the game that will then allow you to match, and you have to wait a lot for matchmaking. So we want to make that as smooth as possible, and also we don't want people obviously to go into a match where one team is hugely overpowering the other. So there is that balance that we're looking at. We're starting one of the new missions right now, which is Intel.
Party Crashers.
Is it? Party Crashers. It's Party Crashers, right. Which is one of the Chapter 1 missions, so of the really early ones. So we have a team of 2, and you still have Jane explaining and helping you a lot, as well as a cranky janitor that should have been played by our lead designer. He wanted to voice it, but he chickened out at the last minute. I'm looking at you, Tom. Okay, so that was the one question. I'm talking too much because there's too many questions coming in. Okay, I'm hurrying up here. Dancer background intentionally removed. Yes, we removed the Dun25 asked about a background, which gave people an extra range, if I remember correctly, in return for less hit points, extra movement. We currently cut back a little on those movement things because they allowed you to outdistance your opponents really easily. Currently it's just sort of a quick fix, it's just cutting it, but we'll look into how much movement we're going to give you. This especially comes into play when you look at the body and mind trees, where all those sort of advantages are in now. So these extra powers basically that you have are more cautiously balanced, and the backgrounds sort of counter that, and there some of them are really too strong. But we're still in the process of balancing backgrounds, so may come back. So that was that question. Oh man, there's a lot of people today, and there's a lot of questions. I need to speed up. Will we get trench coats? Trench coats, well, something like long coat. Some things are definitely planned. We talked about this today. We have them already, but we haven't integrated them into the game because we need to fix something that where they intersect with the trousers. You're going too fast. Boss fights. We have more boss fights in the game. I'm not even call out. I'm just going to call out questions. Boss fights. Yes, there will be more boss fights in the game. Actually, this is one of the first. This is actually the first boss fight you're going to see.
Yeah, it is.
And I really like that one because it's a nice take. And there's going to be more boss fights in. Also, we have in later levels you have what we call lieutenants, which is probably translates into sub-boss fights or something. That'll also be more frequent. Servers are always in the same place. Yugi Plex asked us that are we running servers outside of Europe or in the US? No, servers are in the same place, but our server, since we're a turn-based game, latency actually doesn't really matter. If you currently experience a lag, then this is not because the server is at a specific place, but more because you we have some sort of bug that we need to fix. Yeah, I should have someone helping me writing down the question, toss them away, but you much too fast. I can't toss them away in that kind. Will there be a form of guild feature? Not currently. We are looking at more extensive PvP and community updates after launch, which also answers the question whether there will be any free content or other stuff after launch. Of course, we're going to continue to update the game with new features and also with new content. At some point, it will be well done. There's another Draca gone. At some point, it will be possible that we actually have a sort of a full add-on, which is something that we already sold in early access and also to some of the backers, which is a sort of full add-on campaign, but we'll also have smaller content updates along the way that will be free of charge. Will there be more backgrounds? Is another question. I'm just going to go it from if I didn't get around to answering your questions, just post it again. I'm just going to go from the bottom because otherwise I'm never going to get through. An ex-stripper background, cyber angle, good idea. Let's have suggestions on the forum for that. And take the ex-dancer for that. That's a natural, I think. Did you fix the single shot uses both action points? It's not actually a fix because that's as intended. The shot always ends your turn. But the pistol shot, for example, allows you to shoot again if you critical, if you make a critical, and then you could also have the opportunity to mark an enemy, so you automatically crit. So there's some synergy in that if you want to get more out of your single shot. But a shot will usually always, an attack will usually always end your turn unless you've got an extra action point. Yeah, thank you, Ugiplex. It's easier if you start your question with the word question. So that's what we have here. I'm going up. Okay, Telemund asks, hey Telemund, you made it, cool. Ask about what we can say about what's in the deluxe edition Gears and Weapon and what we can say about that. Okay, deluxe edition holds a couple of things. It'll hold the PDF, well, not the deluxe edition on Steam is different from what the backers get, so I have to try to think really hard about it. It's basically a lot of starter gear. It's some specific armor, and there's a talisman involved in one of them, and some sort of enchantment / cyberware in the other. I can't currently from the top of my head tell you which is which. So it's that. Question, will we be able to recolor clothes to better mix and match them? Actually, that's the question that we had talked about today. For certain clothing, it will make sense, and we want it to be in. Our project manager told me it's going to be an 80% chance to have it in for launch. So yeah, 80%. Probability is a bitch, so you never know, but that's what we're looking at. Oh, and here's the boss enemy already. You made it. Progression Wolf. I mean, all blabbering away, you already encountered him. So yeah, that's the first boss enemy. For those that actually watched the stream, you'll notice that he's able to multiply. He's basically casting images of himself, and the task is to find out who's the real boss versus who are all the images and not die during that process. Grenades are really handy for that, as are dashing to him in order to take him out, which... Oh, a critical.
Nice one.
That must have hurt. I think that actually was the real boss, wasn't it?
Yeah,
a lot of hit points. So you just have to contend with his little puppet copies, which are much easier to hit.
Yeah, but they hurt a lot too.
They hurt a lot too, but they're easy to kill. But it's actually, this is one of the first ones where you can't just barge in and shoot at everything, because they'll quickly overpower. I played one yesterday where I had 8 or 10 of them because I ran away and they just kept
coming. Yeah.
They just kept coming and multiplying. So and that was really scary. You like somebody there likes just hacking. Oh, that's an interesting ragdoll as well.
Yeah.
I think he's doing a helicopter. Okay, that was a real ragdoll moment, I'd say. Okay, on to your questions. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused by our own game, but it's so pretty. Hair colors will also have more variations, definitely. Hair colors are definitely in, as well as skin colors, so these are going to be adaptable. So you don't have to, if you have a certain style of hair or beard, you don't have to have that color going alongside with it. So there's a full palette of hair colors, more hair styles. I've ordered them today, actually, from our really nice graphics department, who were kind enough to grant us some. Yeah, variation of skin. Variation of faces is something that we've been discussing. It's currently not planned inside the launch scope, but I get the feeling that we either need to do this or come up with some other solution, because we're getting a lot of feedback internally as well. People go like, I don't want to play an elf that always looks the same. Now, you don't really realize it in the actual game view, but obviously if you look at your own character, it's more apparent. Question: is the VIP backer area going to be the same hub area as we see now? What is going to prevent non-VIPs from entering? No, it's not. If you notice, there is a double door inside the large area. We are going to go there immediately after we've claimed our ample Nuyen reward. Yeah, that's it. There's going to be a VIP room / cafe behind that. We don't know exactly when. Maybe for launch, maybe not for launch. Again, it's that 80%. Neo Anarchy Opti asked whether there's going to be specific totem animals for shamans, in particular Raven. We don't currently have specific shaman totems. We do have shaman Foki that they do, but I would see a shaman background, actually, rather than sort of an item for that. So a shaman background with Raven Shaman, I think, makes a lot of sense. We'll, as I said, we'll add more backgrounds anyway, so that would be a good place to have them, I think. With release in about 6 weeks, will there be any more updates before release? We are of different opinions regarding that. My personal opinion is we should have another, because a lot of the things like 4-player co-op, as well as simultaneous co-op. If you saw the game just now, you've noticed that both of them move one after the other and they have to wait for each other's turn. In the current trunk version, which is the sort of daily development version we just played today, there is already the option to actually move simultaneously since of today, which works fine. I was surprised as well, but it actually is relatively smooth. It's a little weird sometimes when you do something and the character doesn't immediately react because somebody else is also movement is just animated, so there's a slight delay. But it actually works much better than having to wait for your other person, especially if you don't directly communicate. So that is going to be in, and I think that's two things that I really would love to share, as well as the actual multiplayer hub. So when you are inside the hub currently, you can invite people, so you join them in your hub. But in the future, obviously, that should be more populated with more people running around that you can actually meet and chat with. So, Telemoon, hint, would be awesome if we get more customization options like character size, body type, different faces. Yeah. I don't think body type and character size will be in, because they really don't matter that much. I mean, if you look at how large a troll is versus a dwarf in the game view and in the menu view, then you see that changing that won't really make a huge difference, but it will be a huge amount of work for us because we need to adapt all the assets to fit each possible size. So I think that is actually the first time that I have to have a hard no on this. Streets on Crunch, yeah, Crunch, you're right. You made a number of Spirit Guide suggestions, and I think the background is a really good idea. Again, we hope to get that in. We have some time spirited away for creating those, but it may be too late to balance them properly. So, yeah, not sure whether they go in at launch or whether we get them before that. Yeah, Cyberangle agrees that we should have more updates to test, so we can find bugs for us. Yeah, that's true. We also actually will have sort of a gameplay questionnaire that we want to have filled out by some of you, where there's more sort of less bug and more. It's more about being subjective experiences. How did I like this mission? How did I play it? Was it difficult? Wasn't difficult? Stuff like that. We're exiting the game for some reason. Because we've played a mission and we don't want to play another one.
No, it's just that's the thing about going live. You might get stuck.
Okay. We just encountered a bug and we couldn't play on. Okay.
So I had to restart.
It's a live session. This is how live we are. We actually have our bugs public. Question and concern from Dun25. I'm a bit worried that you guys are misapproaching the skill trees. We had that discussion just now on the forums. There is various opinions on it. I don't think a skill tree per se is a bad thing. I actually think making or giving people hard decisions to make about their character is a meaningful choice. Some people resent the fact that they can't skill a shield and a haste or something, and sometimes it's right. Sometimes our options are like two really juicy ones and two really lame ones, and then we have to have a hard choice between the juicy one and another hard choice to the lame one, and that's not ideal. But that's rebalancing the skill tree to make more sense. Getting rid of the skill trees completely, I don't know. I think they make a lot of sense in our context. They aren't exactly pen and paper Shadowrun. But then again, pen and paper Shadowrun doesn't have that many maneuvers anyway. So all of the actions that you have in the game, if they aren't spells specifically, are kind of maneuvers that you may or may not be able to make in pen and paper Shadowrun, depending on whether or not you have a specific skill set. So it's almost like if you didn't choose that skill, that maneuver probably wouldn't be available to you in some of the decking, for example. I think we're gonna have a healthy discussion, continue to do that in the forums. I currently don't see enough reasons to do away with skill trees, apart from the fact that it would be a major overhaul at that point. But also, as I said, we aren't. It's not like something that we have to have at all cost. If there is a lot of people, making better suggestions, then we are open to listening to them. But they need to make sense in the context of non-Shadowrun play as well. Question: will there be a respect or way to reassign skills if we decide there's something wrong we don't like later on through character development or as new stuff becomes available? Okay, sorry, other questions first. Telamund, what about the Overwatch action? We don't have Overwatch in. We're not going to put it in. The reason for this is Overwatch makes you move and stand around a lot and wait for the enemies to come. It's cool. I know as a player character it's a cool thing. But as a gameplay mechanism, it actually just means, hey, I don't want to waste a turn, or I don't want to risk running into enemy fire. And we'd rather solve these problems in another way. And we actually want you to take a bit of a risk. So I understand why people want Overwatch, but we, as a tactical option, it slows down gameplay tremendously because it'll just make you move, Overwatch, move, Overwatch, move, Overwatch. And it's always fun if the enemy moves into it. But especially in co-op, it's making the game really slow. So for now, we don't see enough arguments to put Overwatch in. I'm sorry for that. Question from Elveneko: will there be actual tours in Matrix, or deckers will be just supports in this game? Okay, you can't currently. We don't have a Matrix level, so not like in Shadowrun Returns where there is some levels where you go into Matrix. Reason for that again is if the decker goes into the Matrix, nobody else can go with him. So he plays alone, or he plays at on another map that works in single player, but it doesn't work as well in co-op. Which is not to say that there won't be Matrix runs in the future. We're actually looking at visuals for Matrix representation. There may be the first you actually see is probably going to be a node that belongs to Smedley, which is a place where you're going to meet, and this node is sort of the Matrix style visuals, and when we have those, building a mission inside Matrix style visuals, not that hard. Definitely something, again, not for launch, but also I'm pretty sure it will come. So, going back to that question, will magic users be affected by cyberware? Yes, currently there isn't cyberware in the game, so you can't be affected by that, but the whole magic system will be based on endurance/fatigue, so you'll lose, and also both magic, like if you have two magic trees, that your two magic items, shaman plus mage, they'll drain the same pool, and from that pool maximum will be reduced by cyberware. And then obviously you have alphaware and betterware, so when you have better ware inside, that takes less of an essence cost, then that will help your maximum for your endurance, which in turn is sort of the power pool for your spells. Again, going too fast. Okay, Rex, again, sorry if I just sort of drop your questions, because I'm trying to be as fast as I can. Crunch asks whether there will be a way to respec your skills. Not currently planned. I mean, we can technically have it. There's a reset button. We can charge you for it in some way. But probably we think that there isn't really a way to skill really badly. It's just a matter of choice. So probably, and you can replay having 3 careers. You can actually replay the missions as well. So no, currently we don't have a respec button in. So will there be skill trees? Let's see, hang on. Rexrod 33 question, will there be a maximum skill value? Currently it's 10. For the skill tree, basically you can have 10, it's not a skill value, but it's 10 steps in the skill tree, which is the maximum for now. But as we produce more content, that will actually probably rise. Okay, again, going too fast. I'm going to drop a few. Please repost if I've gone over them. Question from Evaneko again. Will there be choices in dialogues? That's a difficult example. Choices are important. Yeah, the short answer is no. We don't have dialogue choices. We have what we call optional dialogue. So again, if you want to have that dialogue with an NPC, you can have it. It's going to be, they're telling their story, their backgrounds. If you play a bit in the mission now, you'll see that they explain, introduce themselves. Also talk a bit about the other characters in the hub, but we don't have multiple choice dialogues that usually in a game end up being a tree that goes like, hey, A, B, C. Well, really it's just A, B. Oh no, it's just A, because the outcome always sort of is preordained. And again, it's something that doesn't lend itself readily to co-op, because you watch somebody else's choices and then it's about voting for who, what it is as a group we're going to answer and all that stuff. And there are systems for that, but none of them are really elegant. And then, we just stuck with what we call the optional dialogue system. So if you like the story, you can read the story. If you don't like the story background, don't care much for it, then you just skip that. That being said, we are aware that it lessens the RPG feeling somewhat, because you don't feel as much in charge of what your character is doing, or whether he likes certain characters or doesn't like certain characters. You can't really express that very well. That's true, but it's not something that we can change in the short term now. Cyber Angel asks question: if you do not use magic, will there be a reason not to max cyberware? Other than money, probably not. Your essence cost reduction will not affect any other skill unless you have the maximum will be 0 essence. But that's the same as in the Shadowrun pen and paper game. If you ignore the fact that people that are cybered up tend to be socially awkward, there is no technical limitation that keeps you from just maxing out your cyberware, but it's going to be expensive. That's the main problem. Kiyonekashi, second questions. Any chance for dual wielding pistols and SMGs? Visually, in the sense of that's the animation of. We don't have that animation yet. There is no other reason why you couldn't. Currently, you can actually, which is a bug, dual wield weapons, and both of them will give you separate skill trees. So currently you can by accident dual wield a pistol, even though you only have one pistol in hand, which is probably the exact opposite of what you are looking for. But no, we don't have the visualization currently for dual wield. So Steel Knight question, repost. I'm sorry, Steel Knight. Will there be non-lethal weapons to defeat enemies, narco jet rounds, and so on? There will be non-lethal ways to overcome some enemies, but we don't have a specific narcojet like put them to sleep thing. There's some levels where you can, there's the police station where you can give them one over the head, but by and large, the damage will be lethal. However, you don't have to kill anybody usually unless it's a kill all mission. So in all go-to missions, you don't need to do anything with them. You can stun them and run away if you can make it. So there's no need to actually defeat every enemy in the level unless the level specifically states, kill all the guys there. The second question from Steel Knight, will there be more weapons becoming available? Grenade launchers, miniguns with an appropriate skill tree. We had a heavy weapon skill tree. We didn't follow it up. It's sort of halfway finished, so I'm guessing it will make it into an update. Yeah, I think I can say that. Tom is not around, so I can say things that are like, hello Tom, if you're watching this, we just promised that we make heavy weapons into an update. Hey, you don't need to thank me. Okay, so will there be more options for deckers? Crudeo asks. Options in what way? You mean skill options, or more decks to choose from, or more skills inside the decker tree? The decker skill tree is actually pretty finished, I think. Again, all the skill trees may see slight changes still. There will be more decks as you progress, and actually different decks that have different power foci basically on what they are good at. And of course, if you can spec up on Cyberware, that'll also help. Okay, Few Savage, Kilonian. Okay. You're talking amongst yourselves, so I'm just going to read your dialogues. Yeah, we have there's some people that can't get into the game. Apparently, we are one of them. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm kind of stuck. If you just keep talking,
yeah, I'll just keep talking, and he'll go over to the person that may actually be able to fix this. Again, it's a live stream, so that what happens. Crunch, I'll tell Tom you said hi. I'm sure he's gonna watch this at some point. Hi Tom from Crunch. Social Nomad asks, if things can be expensive, will there be other ways of earning money besides Shadowrun, such as auction houses or black markets? No, we don't have auction houses or black markets. You can actually sell stuff that you find in a run. So there's all kinds of stuff from Maria Mercurial bootlegs to just plain spread sticks or the odd organ or two that you'll be able to sell. And you can sell these at any shop just for convenience, so you don't have to run around with fifth person selling stuff and then go to first person and buy stuff. So that'll be your income, and this income can actually be augmented by doing co-op, because in co-op everybody gets loot. So when you now go into co-op, you can, I think loot is in. So you can actually pick it up, but everybody gets something, which means you can bolster your income from runs, which should still be sort of the majority of your rewards. I think Shadowrun rarely has that thing where a run goes, you go into run and then you steal 15 pistols from the guys that you kill and then sell the pistols off the black market. At least that's not how we play it. Your mileage may of course vary. But yeah, these are the ways to augment your income and maybe able to afford Cyberware. Yeah. Live debugging, that's the best customer service in the history of gaming. I agree.
Thank you.
Even better would be if it doesn't crash in the first place, but can't ask for anything.
Never play on a patch day.
Yeah, that's true. Never play on a patch day. It's an age-old saying that we just choose to ignore to our own dimness. But anyway. Crudeo wants more options during the run, like spotting with cameras, open and closed doors, hack the smart traps. Okay, that's what you meant with more decker options. Hacking is actually something that is in some levels is really, really useful. It depends on the mission and on the on the whole way it's set up. But there are decker actions that are specifically geared towards doing that. However, we don't have a specific skill for disable camera and another for open door and a third one for doing this, but it's hack this and something will happen that's probably going to be good for you. Unless you miss the roll and critically fail, and then some ice is going to attack you and do damage. Question from Cinefei. Apart from PvP, will there be other goals or options after the storyline is complete? Endgame. There's going to be, as of today, we decided that we haven't designed it out completely, so it's a bit premature, but I like to be premature. So we'll have what we call sort of generic missions, or the side missions, and we have a bunch of those that you will be able to pick from. They'll be really hard, so you probably will have several attempts to actually be able to resolve them, but they should keep you busy for a good amount of time until we manage to get the PvP up. So that is Endgame 1. Endgame 2 is Iron Man mode. So when you play through the game once, you're probably going to be able to unlock Iron Man mode, which means whenever your character is killed, he's dead, and you can start from the start, which is also something that a lot of people probably will invest time in. And depending on how good you guys are, we probably will do some event around who's the first to finish Iron Man mode, and you'll get a worn hoodie from some of us or something like that. Some really interesting price. Repost from Crunch, any updates on convention attendance? We are going to be at the RPC in Cologne. We are probably going to be definitely going to be attending Gamescom, but maybe not in the public. And we're looking at PAX, and that's currently it, I think. We did want to go to Gen Con, but I don't think we'll be able to make it. Question, will we see the Ares Predator, and will we see weapon modifications? Ares Predator, I think, is in the game, probably just not in the power level that we currently have. But
I think so too.
I think I saw it. And weapon modifications, not yet. It's again that's one of the systems we have planned out and designed out. We didn't manage to implement them yet. We'll see after launch how the priorities are. I personally would like to have that, but I think we needed to make sense. So there needs to be enough. You need to feel the difference strong enough in order for it to make sense. Otherwise, it's just purely cosmetic and fiddling around, which is fun as well. But I think it probably makes more sense in connection to the end game. But yeah, not for launch, and for after launch, we'll see. Questions: are we ever likely to see runs with legwork to change how the run plays, or will all runs be mostly straight combat with fixed outcomes? Again, not for launch. There's one mission that doesn't have a fixed outcome, which is our last mission. So that'll in turn influence how the storyline continues. Legworks, probably not. What we can see is that we do more runs that are sort of legwork runs before you do another run. So these kind of chain missions that we have, where you're not supposed to go into the hub, which currently don't exist yet. This is where all these weird character dialogues happen when somebody goes like, "Hey, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be seeing this. Go back." That's actually not what the final game should look like. This simulating the fact that we have a mission that doesn't allow you to go back into the hub and go shopping and get new stuff. And in these missions, that when we have this set up, it allows us to actually do legworks, because there's missions that lead into other missions, which currently doesn't happen. And when we have that, then more legworky style missions are probably in order. So yeah, apologies for everybody. We currently can't play the game, and we are fixing it as we speak, apparently. So, question from Elvin Echo: will there be events that is not random but made by devs, when something will happen for a limited amount of time and will change a storyline? Yes, not in the sense of that, there's probably not in the sense of there's a specific level popping up only for a limited amount of time, maybe that. But definitely events where we announce something and ask people to do some specific stuff that will then affect the way the storyline continues. That's actually how we continue our storyline. So from the end of our current game, the next plot points will be decided by and around these events, or by collective numbers created by all of the players doing something specifically in A or B, or winning or losing something. Question: how is kill trees? Oh, you're going too fast again. Question: how are skill trees designed? They all vary in how many multiple choice skills there are in a tree and where these appear. There's no strict design pattern to them. They all have various choices depending on how powerful the skills are, that they are branching, how powerful the weapon is per se, how interesting or not interesting we think it should be. So there's no clear pattern. It started out as a sort of regular pattern, and now we are just going like, that makes more sense here. So it's really in the iteration phase where they all change. By and large, there's one rule: you can't have a follow-on skill like Mana Ball 2 can't be there if you had previously a skill choice of either Mana Ball or Fireball. Then Mana Ball 2 would not be possible because that's a skill choice that you may not have made if you've chosen Fireball. So that's the only sort of logical rule in there. Question: will there be social options like persuade, etc. for non-lethal way? No, we don't have. There's no dialogues or stats that influence dialogue rolls on a success or not. So if you talk to somebody, that's what they say. Street Some Crunch. Questions: plans for special holiday events? Yeah, but we don't tell you. It's a special holiday event. Why would we give it away? Yeah, we'll honestly we have a couple of ideas, but we'll once the holidays approach, we'll think more deeply about those. Currently, we have our heads full with other stuff. Furious Savage. We need an event where players have to stop rampaging Santa Claus hopped up on combat drugs. I hear you. Let's keep that in mind for Christmas. Sarah, though, questions, repost. What about a system for player to create a map? Yeah, we have that thread popping up and again. It's an online game, so creating a map isn't as simple as just creating one and uploading it. There's all kinds of restrictions to it. There needs to be a policy guarding it. You can crash our servers we can crash our servers by doing maps that are wrong, so we need to have a sort of check for that as well. And then there is that question of how game-breaking is it. If you allow people to build maps, then they'll go build maps that just give them a lot of loot. And again, there's a lot of policing around it and a lot of editor creation, which is the problem. It's not like we don't like people to create maps for us, but it's really expensive and not easy to build a system that allows other players to just build maps that are playable for everybody. It's not impossible, but it's just really hard, and it's currently out of scope. So we would love to see it. Servers back online. Thank you. Yes, there's no face characters per se in the game currently. That's true. Question reposed. What about the Astral Plane? Is there still something planned for the game? Yes, Matrix the same way as Astral. We have designs for that currently. We won't see them in for launch. And we have both an Astral Plane run, basically, which is entirely possible. That is one that is just purely for Astral characters. Or we may have visualization options that show you specific stuff for the Astral Plane. We had parts of that in, but that was actually a lot of information that wasn't really useful. We could have gone the Shadowrun Returns way, where they have these ley lines, so the astral view will allow you to get a better positioning or different positioning, which is also something that I like. It's nice, but it's not totally game changing. Yeah, we haven't made our mind on that. Made up our mind on that yet. Oh, we're gonna play another mission here. Primetide, take Primetide. Such a nice character, I think. No, it couldn't be. I don't think I made somebody called Primetide.
You should.
Yeah, I should. Then everybody will shoot me. I don't know. Okay, that's how far I've got with your questions currently. Question: will there be different visual types of weapons? Metal claws, staffs, baseball bats. There's gonna be visual types for melee weapons as well. Yes, currently in the game, the setting is done in a way that you don't really see too many weapons as you advance in the levels. We don't have a huge variety of weapons, but we do definitely have much more flavor weapons that have different visuals, obviously. And again, that's something that we are adding as we go along. Questions: will there be programs and modifications for decks too? The decks will also evolve, so you'll have later on different decks that have different kinds of powers, improving your range, but not your chance to hit, or otherwise, or the other round, stuff like that. But there will be no specific programs. But basically, we assume that your skills on a decker, your skills are what represents the programs that you run. Question: why only 2 chars now? We are going to have 4. It's just this is currently it's an early level. So in Act 1 you'll have a lot. Usually just have 2 characters because we'll teach you the game, and we didn't want it to be too complex. So it's easier with 2 characters. But from after this mission onwards, actually, you're always going to be able to field 4 characters or more, depending on whether you have NPCs with you. Questions: will we still have our friends' characters as possible NPC henchmen when they're not online? You shouldn't have your own unless it's from a different account, so you probably won't be able to do a double crunch. But if you have a different account, then this character may show up as well as the same as your friends' characters. Question: will there be a Boston feel to the voice in the near future? Yeah, the current voice acting is just a stand-in. Actually, from tomorrow evening onwards, evening our time, we'll record the voice acting, and there will be a lot of the voices in the hub will be done, as well as most of the in-mission stuff, and they definitely should have more of a Boston accent. At least this is what we ordered. Let's see how the voice actors came up. But we listened to a couple of voice examples that could actually do different Boston accents, Southie accent versus whatever other part of Boston. So yeah, there's going to be a Boston feeling to the voices. Yeah, turrets can currently talk, as can dogs. We've got, I think, talking dogs and talking turrets that are really mouthy, so they can comment on what you do. This is not supposed to happen, but it's fun nevertheless. Question from Yugiplex. Hey, what features do you have planned for the social hubs that won't make it into the game at launch, but we will see at the end of 2015? At the end of 2015, it's going to be a huge game. And then I have to eat my own shit. Okay, there's definitely something around the whole guild thing that we want to do. So more of a sort of a longer-lasting faction war community style thing, where which is as concrete as we can currently get. I think also that the whole grouping feature needs to be improved a bit. And a couple of social actions that we actually will see, which aren't that huge, but we'll still make it. There's in co-op, you can actually get a ping. So instead of saying, hey, to my right, this guy, no, my other right, you can actually ping stuff and go like, hey, attack this one. So that's a minor, but it's still a good thing in co-op. Yeah, I think I'll have to be vague on the other social options. So it really depends on how we prioritize the game and how the community develops and everything else. Not how we prioritize the game in the sense of whether we want to do it or not, but how we prioritize all the stuff that we want to do in the game. Max number of people in a social hub currently is 40, I think, but we've got a soft cap in, so you can invite more people when you are in there. You can invite people into your group, and they should have some space as well. So they won't allow new external players, I think, at 25 or 20. But it also depends on how much we want to show on the screen. Okay. Question: are you planning something like Shadow Sea Jackpoint for sharing information and selling pay data? I think that's actually going to be the hub. You talk to other people, you may share data. Pay data actually is something that you can find and sell to the average shopkeeper, in our case. But we fully expect all of you to actually, when you've given the opportunity to actually role play with each other in the hub, that's one of the reasons we built it, and we hope, of course, that you will use it as such. Can we trade items and money? Yes, you can sell items for money. Not, of course, for the same money that you bought them for, but you can salvage, as that loot will give you will be sold, and you can sell old weapons and other stuff. Questions: are there med packs? That for an NPC is really hurt. There are med packs, yes. They are relatively expensive, so you shouldn't abuse them, but there's going to be med packs in. Yeah, thank you. Yugiplex noticed the Shadow of a Dragon passing over. That particular level, actually, that ties in with the whole story. Question: how open-ended will the player character development be? Is it possible to do enough side missions to earn karma and cash to max out all of the skills attributes? No, it isn't. We don't want to allow you for everybody to just be the all-around powerful character that can do everything. In the normal progression, I think you'd probably be able to max out sort of 2.3 to 2.5 skill trees. If you then play the end game a bit more, probably 3 something, 3 point whatever. But even 4, I think, is a lot already to have maxed out, and that's about how high we think we would go before we actually allow for the skill trees to be extended, so you can have more skills in that particular skill tree. Question to marketing: can we buy trench coats with the SRC logo on it? Trench coats would be nice. We are going for hoodies. Trench coats are notoriously more expensive to produce, but we can give you the logo if you send us an email with money. We can give you the logo on a trench coat. Question: can you trade with other players? No, you can't. There is essentially no shortage. We don't have an economy system in the sense of, hey, I've just spent 10 hours farming eggs and you have just spent 10 hours farming iron, let's swap. We have stuff in the game that you can buy and sell. You can see them on the screen shortly. Go to owned. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that you can sell, but you can also see that the value of that, well, that's clothing, so it's not really that valuable, but there's valuables as well, like this BTL chip or a quet stick or two, and you can sell them to the store, but other players wouldn't get anything from having that. So I don't think it's an MMO feature that's typical for MMOs, but I don't think really it fits Shadowrun well, that sort of bartering. Question from Kudeo: can we design, customize our cosmetics, jackets, etc.? There is no customization option in the sense of you creating them yourselves. On certain things like hair and bird and potentially some clothing, you'll have the option to color them yourselves or choose specific colors. And on how many of those clothing items depends. I've said that before in this particular Twitch stream, that you will be able to do that with an 80% likeliness within the launch version. Otherwise, it's going to come after launch. Elven Echo: question: if the game will be a success, will you at least think again about a map editor if you will have enough funds to create it? Multiplayer game really needs it for endless content. Of course, if we have enough money, that's the sky's the limit. It's not that we have run out of ideas or ambition. I think we have a lot more of these, maybe a little more than we can eat currently. But the main point here is that this is going to be so hard and so expensive and so extensive to do that it's going to be at the cost of a lot of other stuff. And I'm not sure whether we can't create other interesting things. I think PvP in itself already is kind of endless content, because once you play PvP, the map doesn't matter as much. I mean, I don't know, League of Legends does fine with 3 maps or so, 5 for a couple of years, and still seems to be attractive. So there's ways to create endless challenges without creating endless content. But yeah, as I said, it's not something that we didn't want on principle. It's just something that is a huge undertaking, I'll invite all of you to make our game such a huge success that we can actually afford to do it. I don't have anything against that personally. Easy the Cool Guy asks: question: will the game be free to play on launch, and when will the game be ready for that stage? It's going to be we're launching it as a paid version, and we're going to keep it that way for as long as we can. I don't want it, like, even a free to play version, I wouldn't want to have a free to play economy in. That's a couple of different choices that we made now in terms of how the whole items and the karma and everything works. and I don't want the game to become a grind fest. So I don't know. Currently, I mean, there's a lot of MMOs that went free to play at a certain stage later in their life cycle, and changed stuff around, or added stuff. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying we won't do it, but it's not something that we plan for the near future. Question: can we modify our drones like weapons? You can upgrade your drones so that the drone skill tree actually allows you to put modifications on your drones, basically. That's already possible. And again, there's different rigger decks that affect the drones in different ways. So within this combination between skill and drone, the drones should be different depending on your choices. Yugiplex questions: will there be an SRC companion app for mobile devices with features such as checking leaderboards, chatting with shopping? No. Not currently. We have our hands full with what we do now. A companion app is, I think, worth it if there is a critical number of people that actually want to do this. So let's see if there's enough players in our game to make that make sense. Again, not something that we're opposed to in principle, but definitely not something that we see as the first need immediately. Yeah, people like your idea, RC. Thank you for putting that in our corner. But yeah, companion app, as I said, it's something that needs a minimum amount of people to make sense. And I mean, we can do apps. It's not like we're not able to do this, but currently, as there isn't too much shopping and too much other stuff going on, it's not a high priority. Okay, Social Nomad has a question. How far away are you from releasing the iPad version? A good bit. We decided to prioritize the PC, Mac, Linux version because it'll sort of allow us to do the same stuff across the board. Whereas for the iPad version, we have to optimize graphics and change stuff a lot. Technically, it's like in terms of design, it's already there in the sense of all our UI restrictions apply. So you can play the game on a touchpad. You can actually, if you've got one of these nifty touch screens that run Windows, you can actually use that as well, and the game runs pretty decently already on that. Yeah, but when we exactly be able to begin the optimization process for the iOS version, I don't know yet. Okay. Please add clan chat app for mobile when you add clans. Just tell Tom he has a week to do it. I'm guessing he's going to be pretty happy to hear that he's the full week to do a complete companion app, but I think we need him for other stuff before that. WW Dragon question, repost. Can we phone in mission completion instead of going to hub? Say I want to do 3 missions in a row. There's actually some missions that are done in a row, but you always have to have at least a small hub visit, because technically we also need to actually start you again in the missions. So there's a reload obviously of the map. But some of the missions will be more connected, like the one that's currently in, where you start at the feet of the monster, then go into the monster's belly, and then come back. This is going to be a chained mission, so you don't go into the main hub during that time. You're going to see a mini hub, which is actually Smedley's node that he's going to invite you in through the cyberspace. So there's a bit of update, but yeah, that's what it's cool. Severina, like that stuff. Probably because she doesn't wear much. Okay, I think I've managed to keep up with the questions. So any more questions for me? We've gone through for an hour. I've talked as fast as I can. I think if there's any more questions, now is the time to give it to us. Otherwise, question: anything special for guys who attended all Q&A sessions? Our love, Network, our love. As always, you know that we adore you and that we value your attendance highly. Again, you can get a used shirt, but probably not your size. Question from Social Nomad. Will there be any statistics be made available to the players, like most popular missions, player skills? Yes. Currently, the statistics that we have are limited. We mainly use them internally, and they're not prettified, so they look like a huge bunch of statistic lines, which are really hard to read. I think we have to put them in human-readable form and think about what is relevant for the community, and then we'll post them. Probably not inside the game at first, but on the website. But further on, of course, as PvP develops, we want leaderboards and stuff like that, and then you'll have more statistics. Question. So we have blurred into beta now. Is this today's update? I haven't been in yet. When do you think we'll be seeing the complete game? Before launch, at launch? The complete game will be at launch. We don't want to give all the game away. But I mean, the whatever is called alpha or beta or launch currently is sort of blurred lines anyway. I prefer to call our version an alpha, even though technically it isn't, because some features are missing. But then again, some of our features are at beta quality, or some of them actually at release quality. So where are we in development? It's hard to say. Online games these days launch into open beta and stay there for years. Is it relevant for us? It's always been important, and this has been sort of the guiding motto of our development as well, to deliver a version that is as bug-free as we can, and that usually meant that we reduce complexity to a degree. So a lot of the early versions suffered in terms of there wasn't much gameplay in there, but the gameplay that was there could actually be played. A lot of early access titles go the other way. They do a lot of development and give you live development builds that may or may not work, and then you can see the updates happening, which is also a way to do it. We just try to give you sort of a clean experience, even though it's a limited experience. So in that sense, the launch will be our open beta, but that implies to a lot of people that we're still, having huge amounts of bugs in that we just don't care about, which is not the case. We actually try to get it as bug-free as possible. For an online game, that's a feat. Obviously not something that we can promise, and obviously always something that we strive for. But we'd rather give you a little less stuff to play, but that works relatively reliably, and then add on stuff as we go, because we're confident that we will. It's not like we're going to leave the game alone. I'm sure that all of our April and May will be spent fixing bugs and adding stuff that we forgot or changing things around. Questions in marketing. What would be the draw for just the average person not familiar with the Shadowrun universe? That's a good question. If you want to propose a slogan, I think what we currently say, it's if you look at it from somebody who doesn't know Shadowrun, then it's a game best described as XCOM plus magic and hacking in a dark cyberpunk future. And if that doesn't get people interested, I don't know what will. Curious, what OS does the server run? I have no idea. You know what?
I think I do. I think it's Windows.
It's a Windows. Well, it's a Windows OS. That's true. We're running Microsoft SQL and everything else, but it's not a Linux server. That's for sure. Not really a question for the devs, but could someone tell me if unarmed is in the game? Asks Easy the Cool Guy. Well, it's not a question for me, so let you guys answer that. Also, is it possible to put skill points in unarmed melee without putting skills in a magical adept tree? We don't have unarmed in, so that's a short answer. We have blades and we have blunt weapons, but there is no karate, kung fu adept thing. Also a skill tree alongside heavy weapons that we would have loved to put into the update, but not one that will into the launch, but not one that will make it into it. But then there's always updates, and wouldn't it be fun if you just get those later on, so you can play the game again with a different character class or archetype. We don't have character classes. Yeah, did the sun just go down here? Awfully dark now. It's don't know what, the camera just did weird things, and I think somebody just switched off the light in the camera to refocus. Yeah. Because people are leaving the office, and it's only 8 o'clock in the evening. I don't know. Yeah. Don't they have any work ethics?
But I think there was one programmer who did work on a Saturday and signed something in at around midnight.
That's the one guy that we love.
Yeah.
All the other people we don't care about.
I think he's the only guy who's still left.
Okay. Yeah, okay, now you can all wrap around Windows servers and everything else. Get your Linux love out of your system. I don't join that discussion. I've had our IT people, there's wars in the office and around the office about that, and there's a decision being made based on things that I trust were reasonable. And that's all I can say on that issue. Question, is Floria's wife waiting with dinner? I would think she might.
She might.
She might. She's probably waiting. I don't know with dinner or not, but she's waiting.
She's certainly waiting.
So, question, repost. Are there any plans for our characters now to be edited, skills refunded at launch, or will they be wiped? We'll wipe. I think currently we'll probably wipe with launch as well, because it's just, if we do skill changes, even if you keep your characters, you end up with wrong skills and we give all a reset option. Yeah, I don't think that'll make sense. So I'm guessing another wipe is in order, I'm afraid. But then it's fun to play, isn't it? Question, what is the one action animation feature each of you love in SRC? That's a good question, but that's wait till you see all the different damage types, the different critical things based on the weapon that you choose. Currently we only have a limited amount of criticals in, but later on each weapon type can actually do a specific critical animation. I haven't seen them, but weirdly enough, for a peace-loving person like me, I'm looking forward to them. I shouldn't even think that, but that's the case. At least they're surprising. Okay. Telemund at devs, I'm still not convinced about your explanations about Overwatch. Looks like you guys are forcing us to run Zerg-style characters. We can agree to disagree. I can explain it a little more. I don't think you'll be convinced. We had, I think, the discussion in the forum as well. I'm just going to try once more. We don't have Overwatch because currently Overwatch is an option that allows you not to do something and still get an advantage in the game. Not to do something in this case means not move, not go out in the open, not go forward to the next enemy or whatever. It just means sit there and be safe whilst somebody else is put in danger. Now it's a hugely attractive option. I realize that. It's fun to be the guy that shoots somebody moving into your field of vision, but it does slow down the gameplay because it values inaction over action. We don't like that, which means it doesn't. I don't think it means that we force you to zerg into anything. Actually, quite the opposite. If you play the game and you zerg into everything, you'll be quickly just gunned down by other people because they do a lot of damage and you are in the open. So what we do is sort of a middle ground, I think, which is a cautious approach. But you won't get anything from not approaching. That's I think that's the whole point. If you decide to wait out behind cover, that's your choice. Enemies may run at you, so that may be a tactical advantage for you, but you don't get an extra free shot on top of that. If you decide to approach, you'd better get into cover, because otherwise you may be in danger, or you have, there's things like the melee skill, where Overwatch doesn't even make sense. There is a very low likeliness that somebody will approach you, run up to you, and then stand there for your Overwatch to work. So melee characters usually dash in, and there's a risk-reward scheme behind that as well. But this risk-reward balancing is what makes us not want Overwatch, because that is only applicable really to people that have guns, and as I said, doesn't really balance risk and reward. It basically incentivizes taking no risk, and this is why we don't want it. I don't think I don't think it adds tactical depth. It adds a moment of feeling superior for the player, which, as I said, is fine. But in terms of co-op, that's the point where one guy is always sitting there doing Overwatch and the other guy is doing all the hard work, and we don't like that. So that's the reason. You may not agree. Again, we tend to agree to disagree on certain points, but there is a reason why we didn't like it, and we've tried it, and it doesn't sit well with us in the gameplay, especially since we said not everybody has a gun. That makes Overwatch even applicable. I think that's the best I can explain it. Okay. Questions. Will be sniper rifles or just automatics? There will be just automatics, but some automatics have a better range, and there is a sniper skill in the new automatic skill tree, which should be in I think it's in for this one. It wasn't in before.
I think it's in now.
So that's in this update. Check it out. It'll basically allow you to have no range limitation, which effectively makes an automatic weapon a sniper weapon. But it's a skill, so it's got a cooldown as a payoff. At Devs Telemund it's not a no action. It's an observe carefully for danger possible. Yeah. Let's discuss that on the forum. As again, this is really something where it's not about us being lazy or stupid, not being able to do Overwatch. It's a conscious decision, and we may argue that for a while. I haven't been convinced otherwise. If somebody manages to, we'll think of it, but I really don't think currently that's a good option. There are 5 enemy AI in cover. So that's okay. That's okay. The Overwatch discussion is continuing down here. I'll answer questions. Cudeo question: will we get some option for spotting to compensate for Overwatch, like a mage goes spotting on an Astral Plane? Currently, no. Actually, this is what some people use drones and spirits for. So they go actually scouting for them. And I think that's again making a bit more sense because there's a risk reward scheme involved. If you do that, your spirit might get shot or your drone might get damaged. Whereas just being able to see where nobody else can see option is cool for that one character. But it either means you always have to have that guy with you because otherwise you're at a disadvantage. And it definitely puts the AI at a disadvantage. So what you get is, hey, I know that there's going to be an AI there, so you can prepare. Which again is fine, but it puts you into a superior position. And again, it's something where the player feels better of it because of it. But I don't think it'll just allow you to run as far as you can until you know that there's somebody coming there, and then you approach slowly. And with our levels, I don't think most of the time it'll be that useful because you pretty much know that around the corner there's very likely somebody there, so you just assume that there's somebody there and move like there is. That being said, it's not something that I'm totally opposed against in principle. I think it wouldn't be the advantage or wouldn't be the fun that people think it is. Question: will there be more types of summoned creatures and more abilities for that creatures? All of the creatures that we summon are in now currently. So we've got the spirits and the drones.
Yeah.
When we extend the skill trees, there definitely will be more, maybe even with updates, not currently for launch. But all of these should have, as far as I remember, should have modifiable base values, and there'll also be, when you get better foci for summoning or better decks for the rigger, that'll also influence the quality of your creatures in different ways. Okay. Good. Cyber Angel, can my player get mutton chops like yours? No, these are exclusive to me. I've grown them for years. You think I'd just give them away to everybody? Grow your own mutton chops. I think there should be. I think my choice of hairstyle is something that should be more influential, generally, in the public. I'll ask our artists about that. Mutton chops definitely, I think, are a must. But I'm not sure whether they actually fit with the hair by bird thing where you can have, well, okay, maybe. I'll actually ask our guys about that. I think it's a good idea. Mutton chops. Ooh. Questions: will there be exploding furniture? Now we're getting silly, aren't we? And the answer is, to a degree. And I'm not going to say more on this particular topic. But we have recently integrated some destructible parts. Not exactly exploding, but definitely destructible. Okay. Orcs look much better with mutton chops. I agree. Humans do as well. But orcs, okay. I can take that. Okay, guys. I think we're getting silly. Okay, thank you. It's been a wonderful, intensive 80 minutes, actually, almost. We hope you enjoy the new update. As always, if there's more questions, we're gonna be in the forums, Shadowrun.com or on Steam. And please, if you like the game, currently rated on Steam or voted on Steam. We can use a couple more positive reviews if you care for them. We don't ask you to do positive reviews if you don't like the game. Just give us your opinion, give us your feedback. We, as you can see, value each and every one of you, even though we don't always agree. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you, Florian, for staying as long as you did with me and playing the game whilst I completely ignored most of it. But it was important for us to actually allow people to see the game that aren't part of the early access yet, so they can't actually see Shadowrun, so at least they get an idea what we're talking about. And until the next Q&A, which will be announced whenever it's ready.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.